There we go. Perfect. Recording in progress. It has been a while since I've utilized Zoom, but clearly the Zoom technology has not left me. So we are in a good place. Okay, everyone can see my screen, correct? Okay. Let's not spam the chat in the first 10 seconds of me getting started. Let's just chill with that for a second, Jeff. Remember, if you guys have any questions, you guys are always welcome to jump in, and you guys are also welcome to put questions in the chat or just raise your hand, and I'll see it.
I cannot move my mouse.
Okay, that's okay, Daniel. That is something you're gonna have to figure out on your own
And I
time.
can't close.
Okay, I'm just gonna mute Daniel right there.
I can't close the tab that says this meeting is being.
Okay, just see if you can plug your mouse to your computer or something, Daniel. I don't know.
It is like this.
Okay, Daniel, just chill. Okay. As you guys know, we will be continuing our series on organs today. We've taken quite a hiatus. And so hopefully this will be like a fun, good way to get back into the groove of learning about a little anatomy, learning about a little science. And today we're going to be fittingly talking about one of the most important organs in the human body. Oh, there's something in the chat. Okay. Jeff, what did I say about not spamming the chat?
That's not me.
Okay, well then, who is spamming the chat? Oh, this is Ethan. Ethan, stop spamming the chat. I'm sorry, I keep on calling out Jeff. Ethan, if you spam the chat again, I'm going to be forced to put you in the waiting room because honestly, I don't need 20 or 30 messages at a time in the chat. So thanks for understanding, Ethan. Anyways, we're going to be talking about the brain today. As you know, one of the most important organs in the body. When you think of organs in the body, people typically think of the heart, the brain, the stomach. And in all reality, the brain is not that heavy, but it's super important, right? Like we need the brain to be capable, functioning human beings. And this kind of neuroscience is an ever developing field. It's always getting bigger. There are always people going into neuroscience. And so it's really interesting to kind of learn about the different things that go on inside of neuroscience. As I said, it's an always developing field. Yes, Eva.
I know that you're having to start a class, yeah, but why does brain have so many folds? Why can't it be solid?
Yeah, I mean that is simply because of
we will have more brain cells if we had more brain area between the folds.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Remember how in the small intestine you have a bunch of villi and stuff?
Yeah.
They actually increase the surface area of the small intestine, and that's kind of what it's doing here as well. Kind of increasing the surface area, but it's just also a combination of the fact that the brain is just kind of built like that. It kind of just has its own little networks running through. And not everything we can point to and say, this has an evolutionary advantage. It's simply the way the brain has kind of folded in on itself after evolving for millions of years. It's simply just the way it is. Cool. Yeah. It's also why you guys might be a little too young, but an insult that I would hear a lot as a kid was people would throw around the word smooth brained. Have you guys heard that? Smooth brain?
That sounds like a British insult in Harry Potter.
Yes, it is. It is definitely an insult. I don't know if it's British, but it's definitely an insult. And so you definitely want your brain to be ribbed.
I've never heard of it before.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard of the term gigabrain or
What's a gigabrain? I heard of gigachild, but not gigabrain.
Yeah, gigabrain is basically where you have a really big brain, you're highly intelligent, and so
wait, so it's a disguised way of saying nerd.
Yeah, it's another way of calling someone very intelligent. But yeah, people banter these words around. They're kind of buzzwords, essentially. Okay, but let's move on. There is kind of a lot to there's a lot of content to cover on the brain, and that's simply because the brain has so many different aspects to it. You have like the cerebrum, the cerebellum, the brainstem, but then you have like all of these lobes, you have glands inside of the brain, you have, I mean, chemical and electrical signals, you have
Has
neurons
someone
and
ever
dendrites.
touched a real life brain before?
What's up, Daniel?
Has someone ever touched a real life brain before?
I actually dissected a whatchamacallit, a sheep brain in my freshman year of biology, which was very cool.
But
And
why?
hopefully that's something you guys get to do when you guys get older. Dissection is a very informative process, I would say. You learn a lot from dissection, being able to actually put your hands on the organ that you're learning about. And it's very cool. But no, I've not touched a human brain. If that's what you're asking me.
During maybe November, my entire grade, we got to diet, but we got like touch a pig heart, a deer
Oh.
heart, and some chicken hearts because we were learning about the heart and circulatory system.
Hmm.
I think it's dissected because our teacher didn't let us in. The skin was too thick, so we couldn't like, if we wanted to dissect it, we had to use like a cooking knife.
I see.
It was
Yeah.
cool and slimy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Whoa.
Usually, in medicine and surgery, when we use knives, we call them scalpels. These are very sharp knives that are capable of cutting through tissue. They're called scalpels. Yes, Amanda. What's up? Amanda, you raised your hand there. Do you have a question, or is that an accidental hand raise? Oh,
That's my mom's name, but
Oh.
I had to dissect an owl pellet.
Oh, yes, owl pellets are very cool to dissect. You get to
Wait,
see all
what?
of like, this is a little bit off topic. So after we finish this, we're gonna get back onto the topic of brains. But owl pellets are essentially what owls cough up. So owls can't really,
Oh, I know what they are. My
Yeah.
teeth. I've done.
yeah. And you get to see like the bones of all the animals that the owls have eaten. It is very cool. Oh, okay. So your name is Brendan. Cool. Sorry, I was calling you Amanda there. That's my bad. But yeah, owl pellets are cool to dissect. I dissected one when I was in middle school as well, and that was just a very interesting experience as well. Okay, but done with dissections. Let's talk about the brain, right? So in general, I'm going to cover a little bit about function, a little bit about structure, and then a little bit about injuries you can suffer to the brain simply because I can't speak today, simply because a lot of things can happen to the brain, and a lot of things like long term, you need to kind of know how to protect your brain, right? So we will get there. And there's a pretty cool video that I want to show you guys. I found it a while ago. And I find the video kind of interesting, and I hope you guys do too. Okay, but let's talk about function, right? So everyone kind of knows that like the brain controls your emotions. It also controls like the temperature of your body, but there are a lot of other things that your brain specifically controls that you guys might not know about. Obviously it
Wait,
controls memory.
Your brain can control temperature and hunger. Like what if you're like really hungry? Like your brain like can't just like somehow make your brain make you not hungry.
Um, your brain will do its best, but when you are really hungry, your stomach will send a lot of signals to your brain and say that, hey, I am empty, I don't feel good right now, there's not a lot of food in here, and so you're not giving your own body the proper amount of nutrients, right? And so your stomach will send chemical signals out to the brain, and it will tell the brain that, hey, I'm actually quite hungry. And that's what I say when the brain kind of processes hunger. Like your brain will tell you that you are hungry, and you will get like stomach pain, you will feel the desire to eat, you will get like food cravings. That's your brain acting, right? Ooh, that's not what I wanted to do. Yeah. But like the question of like, will your brain tell you that you're not hungry when you are actually hungry? Like, not really.
But sometimes it will, right? Like
What
sometimes,
if
like after like some time you haven't eaten it, like you kind of like stop being hungry sometimes.
Yes, there are certain signals that can tell the brain to stop telling your body that it's hungry, but if you are like starving for multiple days, that won't happen,
I know.
is my point. Yes. Eva, I think you also had a question.
what if you just have like a weird disorder where you eat a lot but you're still hungry?
Mhm.
Like but like you already ate so much that your stomach doesn't feel good,
Mhm.
and then your brain's still telling you that you're hungry, and like but you're having like lots of pain because you're hungry but you're already full.
Yeah,
It's different from that.
it's that is a complicated medical situation, right? I am I'm a high school senior. I do not have my medical degree, and so like this is by no means doctor's advice, but I feel like at some point your brain would tell your body to like stop eating simply because there's so much food in the stomach. If you keep eating, the stomach would explode.
Wait, your stomach can do that?
Yeah, if you put way too much in your stomach,
Has
like
that ever happened in human history?
probably.
Like
Oh,
what
actually,
happened?
probably not, because the brain is good at telling your body to, stop eating before bad things happen.
If that did like would it go like into the space, like into the
Um,
void in your body?
I mean, it would certainly like expel out, or it might even just be a small rupture. Actually, it would probably be a small rupture. So you wouldn't
Would it
be
be
like
like a
shooting
faucet dripping, or would it be more like I
an
popped a balloon, it's all over the place?
yeah, it would be more like a faucet dripping.
Oh, phew.
Yes.
Because that would be painful.
Yes. I mean, yeah, your brain is pretty good at maintaining stuff. Okay, anyways, back to like actual brain stuff.
Wait, would blood be dripping out?
Yes, blood would be dripping out. But what the brain does is it sends and it receives chemical/electrical signals from your body. So let's say I touch a hot stove, right? I don't actually know that the stove is hot. So when I go to touch it, I am unaware that this can possibly burn me, right? So I touch the hot stove, and in what is essentially a split second, the nerves in my hand register that, oh my goodness, it is very hot on this surface. And it sends an electrical signal up through my arm to my brain. And my brain registers, oh my goodness, this is most definitely hot. And from there, the brain will go through an action sequence, right? The brain will say, should I keep my hand on this hot surface? And obviously not. So as expected, the brain will send an electrical signal back down through your body and into your hand, and you will pull your hand away from the hot surface. And so that's how an electrical signal propagates from your fingertips, from the neurons in your fingertips, all the way up to your brain. Your brain registers it and then sends it back, and and the muscles in your arm contract and they pull your arm away from the hot surface, which is like what you want, right? Simply because of the fact that you don't want your hands sitting on hot surfaces all the time. Is that good? Okay, perfect. All right, lovely. Okay. Couple more interesting parts of the brain, right? So we talked about neurons relaying. This is supposed to say electrical. That's a typo on my end. Neurons relay electrical signals. They use chemical gradients to shoot electrical signals down essentially what are like myelin sheaths of like cell of electrical pathways, but they are sending electrical signals. If you guys know how fast like electricity moves along a wire, then you guys know like neurons are very quick. This is like if you plug an outlet into, like if you plug a charger into an outlet your phone basically starts charging immediately, right? And that's like, that just says something about the speed of electricity and how fast it can travel through a wire. And the same goes in your body. Neurons are very quick, right? They are lightning fast.
Wait, are electrical signals like actually electricity?
Yeah, they are essentially. All living organisms have a certain amount of electricity in them. Your heart beats off of electrical signals. That's why we have a pacemaker in our heart. It's an electrical node, and it goes and it sends electricity into the heart, and that electricity causes the heart muscles to contract. Yeah,
But
all
that,
living organisms have electricity.
that how the body gets energy?
No, that is different. The body utilizes ATP for like motor functions and like all other bodily processes. Like that's a little different from electricity. They're kind of separate. ATP is like chemical energy, whereas ATP is essentially stored chemical energy, whereas electricity is just like electrical energy, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about two main points I want to get done on this slide, and then we'll move on, right? So number one, the brainstem controls involuntary actions. So let me show you what the brainstem actually is here. You guys see in this photo, the orange right here, it's labeled pretty clearly, right? Everyone see that? Everyone sees the brainstem?
Yeah.
Okay, great, lovely. The brainstem is in charge of your involuntary actions, right? You guys better remember this. It's on the questions when we play the Gimkit, right? Excuse me here, I had a burp. The brainstem controls involuntary actions. Does anyone want to like take a guess at what involuntary actions might mean? Like what is an involuntary action? Like I
Like
say
instinct?
involuntary action, but
Instincts?
oh my goodness, someone has named themselves Taylor Swift. I can't help but call on Taylor Swift. Yes, Taylor Swift. What what is an involuntary action?
Is this like an instinct?
Wait,
Oh my
hold
God,
on.
it's Lyndon.
I
Is that
wasn't listening
Lyndon?
because I wasn't listening because I was talking to my friend who had a question, but about Monopoly. But anyways,
Yeah.
what
Okay.
happened to lead us to Taylor Swift?
Someone has well, Lyndon has named himself Taylor Swift and is now about to answer what an involuntary action is. So go ahead, Lyndon, whose name is now Taylor Swift. What is an involuntary action? Okay.
Like your
You
heart?
are cutting out. Hold on. Stop and then start talking again because you're cutting out.
It's like an instinct, like your heart beating.
Yes, kind of. Yes, like your heart beating is an involuntary action. Like, yes, that is good, but an instinct is like, no, right? I think a lot of you guys don't actually know what the term like instinct means, right? Like instinct is something
voluntary?
that animals do, like the same way that little baby giraffes and little baby horses can, like stand up after they're just born. That's like instinct. The way that apes in the wild naturally avoid predators, that is instinct, but that is also like environmental factors. They know these predators are dangerous.
Monkey.
So not really. Like instinct is kind of what pushes animals to mate and reproduce. That is instinct, but that is not involuntary. These animals are voluntarily going and mating and reproducing and creating the next generation, right? And so instinct on one hand is different from what you might refer to as involuntary, but heart beating is good. You can't control your heartbeat, or it's very hard to. If you like breathe slowly, then you can control your heartbeat. That is true. You can slow down your heartbeat, but yes, your heart beating is involuntary. Another involuntary action is let's see, is digestion. You can't control like your digestion. Your body will always be digesting, will always be like absorbing nutrients. Another good involuntary action is breathing, right? You really can't control your breathing. You always have to be breathing. You can be breathing fast. You can also be breathing slow, like take a deep breath. But either way, you have to breathe, regardless of how you are breathing. It is still involuntary. Okay, cool. Do involuntary actions make sense now?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought I heard a yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we know the brainstem controls involuntary actions. Does anyone know? Okay, so hold on. Let me backtrack a second. The cerebellum, which is helpfully pointed out on this diagram I've included here, shocker. You can see the brainstem right here, and this is the cerebellum. And the cerebellum is in charge of complex motor functions. Does anyone know what complex motor functions are? Ooh, I just dropped.
Wait. Where's the brainstem again?
The brainstem is right here. Let me get my little annotation tool out. This right here is essentially the brainstem.
Okay.
Okay, cool. We good, Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Now, as I mentioned, the cerebellum controls complex motor functions. But again, does anyone know what complex motor functions actually are?
They're like how you move and you're balancing.
Right, exactly. That is a good way to define what complex motor functions is, or complex motor functions are, I should say. Complex motor functions are essentially like how your body moves, right? We're talking balance, we're talking running, we're talking like swimming, athletics, high jump, tennis, baseball, soccer. All the athletic things you can think of, the cerebellum is really in charge of, and it really helps, right? It's really quite good at what it does with all these complex motor functions. Okay.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, Daniel.
If your cerebellum is like very big, will you have more control over your body then?
I wouldn't say you have more control. I would just say that you are like slightly better, but the cerebellum can be like, you can train your cerebellum to be good. You can train to be a good athlete. You can train to be a good high jumper. And so you can train to be better at a lot of these complex motor functions. And all that training is stored all the way back here in the cerebellum. Does that make sense? Is that good, Daniel?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Oh, someone just entered the waiting room. Okay. Let's talk about structure now, like very specifically. And this is all just a lot of content. It's not actually a lot of like information that you will need to know.
I feel
Most
like
of
the brain is more simple now.
I would actually say the brain is one of the most complicated organs. There is like
but like how like now how it's like going. But right now how you're explaining it sounds like more.
Well, thank you. I do my best to make sure it sounds like, to make it feel simple so you guys understand. But in all reality, the brain is super complicated. There's so much I don't know about the brain. There's so much that scientists don't know about the brain. And there's so much that we still need to learn about the brain. So if you guys want to like grow up and go study like neuroscience, like that's
what I'm planning to do when I grow up.
You want to study neuro? Very cool.
Yeah, either a neuroscientist or a psychologist or a author.
Okay.
I literally have no idea. I just want to be something that includes math.
Okay. Sounds good, Daniel. But Eva, to your point, there are a lot of great neuroscience research programs here in the US. I don't know what grade you are in, but a lot of them start like in high school, like in the later years of high school. Like I'm talking like after your sophomore year, but look out for opportunities. Go and find cool opportunities in neuroscience, because neuroscientists are always willing to help out the next generation of neuroscientists who will be continuing the work. And neuroscience is just an awesome field. I have a friend who wants to go into neuroscience, and she is very, very passionate about neuro. Okay, let's talk about the actual structure and some of the kind of like minute details of structure. Actually, I can't even say these are minute. These are still like very broad like topics. If you do go into neuroscience, Eva, you will learn a lot about specificity and you will condense your information. Okay. As you guys know, when we talk about organs, we like to kind of break them down, right? We talk about like section 1, section 2, section 3. Like for the heart, like I always mention, we have the 4 chambers. We have your 2 ventricles and you have your 2 atria, your 2 atriums, I should say. Well, 2 atria. Yeah, atria is the plural. And the same thing goes for the brain, right? We break the brain down into sections, and each section kind of controls a different aspect of our personality, our relationships, how we interact with the world around us, right? We talked about these.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, Daniel.
Okay. If like basically if someone dies in their brain, can you like take their brain and like put it in someone else's brain? I put it in someone else's body, so that person would be alive, but then they would just be in a different body.
You know, that is something that we hear a lot in science fiction. I don't really think that's possible with the technology we have today, unfortunately.
But like if you like pump the blood
Mhm.
in the brain again, can you do that?
I don't. Well, it depends on how you preserve the brain, right? Like if you like they have Albert Einstein's brain in like a glass jar, but like all the cells are dead. Like there is no recovering that brain. Like all the cells are deceased. It is just preserved. And so you would have to somehow keep the cells alive. Again, neuroscience is like not my strong suit. I'm not very knowledgeable in neuroscience. If you guys didn't know, my strong suit, like what I know most about is cardiology, and stem cells, cardiology and stem cells. That is like my interest. And so if you guys have questions about that, I'm always happy to talk to you about that. But I don't think what you were asking like is possible currently. Like, can we save the brain of a person who is dying and then like transplant it into another body? Like, I don't think that's currently possible. No.
It doesn't really sound possible.
What's up, Daniel?
It doesn't really sound possible.
Well, I mean,
But then when I ask a teacher at school, they're like, anything is possible. You just say that.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things that we don't think are possible in science. And then given 20, 30 years, we get to that point and we say, wow, look how far we've come, right?
I have a
This
question.
happens kind of like over and over and over again. A long time ago, if you
That's because we want to jinx it. We want to jinx it so that it does become.
I don't know if we want to jinx it, but my example was a long time ago. If you asked like someone in the 1820s if we could one day build organs and replace organs, they'd be like, what are you talking about? But now we're looking at a future where we can actually create these organs and transplant them. And so given enough time, humans will create solutions, right? Even if solutions might not be ethical, as in like transplanting brains into the bodies of other people. But regardless, I would not shut down the possibility of that in perhaps the far.
Anything is possible.
Okay. Let's talk about the three main portions of like the brain. Remember we talked about the brainstem and the cerebellum. The brainstem controls involuntary and the cerebellum controls complex motor functions. If you guys look on this diagram right here, you can see the cerebellum and the brainstem are actually pretty close to each other, but there is this large part of the brain, and we call the cerebrum. So if you look at this diagram right here, you can actually see that the cerebrum is split up into a bunch of different lobes, right? We're talking lobe 1, lobe 2, lobe 3, lobe 4. Right? We have a frontal lobe right here. We have a kind of, sorry, I misspoke there. The frontal lobe is in charge of personality, and decision-making, and also a little bit of movement, right? Every portion of the brain is not only dedicated to one thing. Portions of the brain can be resectioned. They can be thought of as kind of flexible, right? They don't only help with one thing, they can help with a lot of things, essentially. And we also have the parietal lobe. It's around like the middle of your brain, or what you would think of as like the middle of your brain. It's in charge of pain, your emotions, and also kind of your spatial relationships. Like how your body is oriented in space. Like if my arm is up here, then like my parietal lobe is telling me, your arm is above your head. Or if I am like lifting weights, or if I'm curling dumbbells, I'm using my parietal lobes to kind of determine like how my body is moving around. And then you have your occipital lobe. It's like right above your cerebellum. It's in charge of vision. Very important. An entire sense. Like it is difficult to navigate the world without vision. And then you have your temporal lobe. It kind of sits under your frontal and parietal lobe above the brainstem. You can kind of imagine it kind of sitting like here. If you were to drill through my head, don't drill through my head, obviously. But
So there's frontal is like decision making movement, and then parietal is like, wait, what spatial relationships?
right. So spatial relationships is kind of just like how your body is moving, like where your legs are in relation to like your
You mean,
body.
Friendship relationship.
No, not like friendships. These are like spatial relationships, like where your hands are compared to your face.
Occipital is like your vision, and temporal is like hearing.
It's kind of. It's in charge of speech and musical rhythm. So kind of like the art.
Wait, I have another question.
Yeah.
If you're deaf, you can't hear what you're talking about, so you can't talk because you can't hear you.
Well, yes, if you're dead, I would hope that you don't start talking. That would be a little bit disturbing.
No, if you're
I heard
deaf,
this
if you're
on
deaf,
YouTube Shorts. I saw a short about like this dude. He said that there was this woman who wanted to see her sister. She wanted be quiet, Marvin. Yeah. She wanted for the funeral dudes to open her sister's coffins because she was late for the funeral. And so they opened the coffin, and the woman inside, she smiled and she sat up and she lived for another 41 years.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Anyways, that is stuff that happens in a horror movie. But to your point, Daniel.
no, I mean like if the person's deaf, not dead.
Yes, if they're deaf, they're capable of producing sounds. But if they're deaf, they can't really hear, right? And so parts of their brain are kind of shut off. Yes.
Yeah. So if they're deaf, they can't hear.
Life raft.
Talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was a question. You were telling me a true statement. So I said yes. Like what you said is true. Like you were asking me if that was true or false, right?
Yeah.
Yes, true. There's your answer. Okay. Any questions on this slide before I move on to the next slide? The next slide is a pretty cool video. And so there are no questions. I'm gonna move on. Okay, cool. Let's talk about diseases and injuries of the brain, right? So number one, let's talk about concussions. Has anyone ever heard of a concussion?
Yes. It's
Okay.
like you get hurt.
Yes.
Yes. So a concussion happens when you get hit on the head, by either you falling over, by another person in a sport, or by like a ball. You get hit in the head with a ball, or your head hits the ground really hard. Concussions are very, very dangerous. They're also very scary. If you have like 1 or 2 concussions, over like the course of your life, it is not that bad. But when you happen to have many concussions over the course of essentially a lifetime, that is when concussions can get like really, really dangerous, because then you get like CTE. And you guys will hear the term CTE thrown around with concussions all the time. And that's simply because that is a true fact. If you get a lot of concussions, you are at higher risk for CTE as well as other brain diseases.
What
When you are-
CTE?
CTE is a type of I believe it's a type of dementia. It is
What's
essentially
dementia?
dementia is a
It's like
category of
Alzheimer's.
brain diseases where your personality changes, it affects your
Personality.
mood, you are constantly like depressed, you find it difficult to create relationships with new people and maintain relationships with like your partners, your friends. You kind of lose your memory. That is what dementia is.
Can I have a fork?
Oh, that's actually kind of
Fork. Give me a
Is
fork.
that okay,
Also,
Eva?
yeah. Also, there. When we were learning about the hearts, like back in like the first term,
Sure.
I asked my reading teacher because I don't know why I should have. I probably should have asked my science teacher, but I asked my reading teacher because I couldn't wait. You're talking about the heart, and we somehow got led into immortality. And I asked my reading teacher, "Be quiet, Marvin."
DD, you can't interrupt someone in a class when you're literally just like,
How are you be quiet? Like if you had a bunch of heart transplants, couldn't you live forever? And he said that. I said 4, but that's fine. It's fine. He said that, well, your personality would change if you changed hearts, even though, like, I don't see how the type of blood you have has to do with your personality, but I think that's really cool.
Mm,
Well, he didn't graduate in science. I don't even know what he
yeah,
graduated.
I don't know if I would believe your reading teacher there. There's not supposed to be a personality change when you have heart transplants, but there can be, simply because of like the pain medications you will take, the different kind of meds you will be on. But like strictly speaking, theoretically, having a heart transplant will not, and I repeat, will not affect your personality. Having a brain injury, however, will affect your personality, because a brain injury is a brain injury. And your brain controls your personality, your mood, your characteristics, but not your heart, right? Your heart does not affect how you feel, it does not control how you feel. It does not control how you deal with difficult situations in your life. It can certainly affect how you feel, though. If you have heart disease, you might not like feel healthy, and in turn that might lead to like depressive thoughts. But the heart does not control the fact that your brain is feeling these depressive thoughts. If you hit your head, okay, bottom line is you hit your head and you have a concussion and you get multiple more concussions and then you get CTE, that will affect how you feel on a daily basis. Does that make sense? Great. Double thumbs up, in fact. Okay. Also, like, I don't think your reading teacher is right about the fact that transplanting hearts like changes personality. Like,
He can scare me very easily. I'm very scareable.
Okay. Well, I think what he wanted to say was that like when you get a heart transplant, you go on a bunch of different kind of medicines that can change your mood, but the heart transplant itself does not like change, right? Yeah. Okay. That's like saying like dyeing your hair will change your mood. Like it is not the physical dye that changes your mood, but maybe you are happier with brown hair. Or happier with blue hair. And so, yeah, something to consider. But essentially, what happens during a concussion is you get hit really hard, and your brain actually rocks back and forth in your skull, and the brain twists. And when the brain twists and it hits the side of the skull, you get a bruise, and you get impact injury. And this twisting is actually really, really dangerous. And we will see why in this video. When you get hit, your head actually like twists this way. And it's very scary. Your brain doesn't like follow the direction of your skull. And it will slam up against the side of your head. Okay, yes, Eva. While Eva asks her question, I'm going to pull up the YouTube video right here.
YouTube video.
Yes.
On my swim team, there was this girl who had a concussion. I'm not sure if it was mild or like severe, but like she still came to practice and she was perfectly fine, except she acted a little bit more odd than usual. She was being a little bit more conky.
Yeah. A lot of the times you can't really tell that people have a concussion.
I mean, she did tell me though. I mean, she was last. She's the fastest in our swim team, but she went last because she has to go easy on her brain.
Yeah, generally when you have a concussion, you should not continue participating in the sport where you got the concussion from. But regardless, that's just concussion protocol. Can everyone hear the video?
This model shows how important rotation of the head is.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to turn on subtitles, and I'm going to kind of ask you guys some questions about the video afterwards. And so
Is your computer full volume? Because it's a little bit hard to hear.
Okay, I'm going to make my computer full volume.
This model shows how important
Good.
rotation of the head is in brain injury. To demonstrate this, we place 2 egg yolks inside a head model. When we shake the model, the eggs slosh back and forth. Next, we fill the model to the top with water and seal the system, simulating the brain enclosed in the skull. In this system, the brain and its surrounding fluid act as one when exposed to an external force. Notice how the eggs no longer move back and forth in this sealed system, no matter how hard we shake them in a linear fashion, even in a hard hit exceeding 100 Gs. Most impacts are angled, not purely linear. When we angle the impact and allow the model to spin, the yolks shear, simulating concussion or traumatic brain injury. Traditional helmets are not optimized to prevent this type of spin. Even though no helmet can prevent all injuries, WaveCell is engineered to drastically reduce the forces that cause these injuries.
Okay, very interesting. So can someone tell me what was different about this test compared to this test? Okay, what is the difference between this test and this test? Yes, Eva.
So like when you're at the flat test, like your brain hopefully will be fine.
Mhm.
Hopefully, but if you're at on the angle test, your brain will go shabam, and
Yes,
then
exactly. That
and
is
also my question. I forgot my question. Never mind.
okay, it's fine. But yes, Eva, you got it perfectly, right? If you have a head-on collision, a lot of the times helmets
right,
will protect you.
I remember now.
Yep.
So I was watching a Dr. Mike video the other day, even though like late at night, even though it scares me when I watch it late at night because all I can think about is like blood and like and it gives me it gives me a weird feeling. It scares
Okay,
me.
sure.
But anyways, I was watching a Dr. Mike video late at night because I was bored. There's nothing else to watch. And there was this dude who was doing like that thing where you like it's sort of like a handstand, but like on those bars, and then his arms like like I don't know, they quivered and he hit his head on the ground like really, really hard. And I wonder if that would like had anything to do with like will it give you a concussion or just like spinal injury or something like that.
He will probably have a combination of a concussion and a spinal injury if he hit the ground pretty hard. Simply because like that is what happens when you hit the ground very hard with your head. Okay, but anyways, as Eva pointed out here, you can see that when the head hits an angled surface, the head will rotate and it will spin, and that is what causes the yolks to kind of like burst apart, and that is also what causes the traumatic brain injury inside of your head. And so that is just a kind of visual representation of the fact that what is so scary about concussions is that the brain in here, like in the diagram, it will twist and it will strike the skull. And that is what is so scary, the twisting and then the striking motion. If it just strikes, it is not as bad. But the twist and strike is what is really, really damaging. Okay, cool. Anyways, let's also talk about Alzheimer's. Essentially what Alzheimer's and dementia in all forms are possibly, we don't actually know what this is, but it could be an autoimmune disease. It could also just be like degeneration of like brain cells, but essentially the connections in the brains and cells and neurons, they degenerate and then they die, and you will never get them back. And so this destroys your memory. This
What if,
destroys.
What if you got a brain cell transplant?
That is what we are trying to do. That is what we are trying to do. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Oh, also, the severe Alzheimer's disease brain looks like a mixture of a cactus and your pelvis.
Yeah, I was gonna say it kind of looks like the human pelvis, but you bring up a good point. This diagram, you can see what a healthy brain looks like, right? There is not a lot of empty space. You can't see that much white. But if you look here, goodness, there is a lot of white. You can see that a lot of the brain matter has like degenerated and died, which is really, really not good. And you can figure out that obviously if you have less brain matter, you start losing your memory, you start losing important mental functions. It gets difficult for you to like breathe because you are losing brain matter. Sometimes you forget the names of people you know. It's scary. It really is.
I saw a short about. I think it's just skit. I don't think it was actually real. Like this dude in a skit. This dude who had Alzheimer's, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
For 3 years, he's been knocking on his neighbor's door. He was like, "Do you know where my wife is?" And the neighbor says, "No, she's gone." And he's like, "She's gone forever?" And the neighbor says, "Yeah, she's gone.
Oh, geez.
Died." And the dude's like, "Yes, my wife died. I'm gonna tell my son."
Oh,
And
my.
the neighbor was like, "I love watching his face light up, even though we've been doing this for 3 years."
Yeah. Complicated topic there. Complicated topic. I'm not going to touch it. The point is, Alzheimer's is a very, very scary disease. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the 54-minute brain spiel I just gave? Actually, more like 50-minute brain spiel.
I literally just like that. I literally just like from that. I know that now I know that Alzheimer's is called Alzheimer's, not Oldtimers. I always thought it was called Oldtimers.
No, it is called Alzheimer's.
I literally for my whole entire life.
Yeah, honestly, I can see how you would call it like old timers. When I was a kid, I used to think Roman numerals were the same thing as ramen noodles.
Oh,
Yeah, it was bad. Okay, anyways, I'm going to stop my recording here.